Hey everyone, welcome to Developer Briefing 100. My name's Jonno. I'm Community Manager at Team 17 working on How Let Loose, and I'm joined by a very special guest today. Project Lead Max, you know him as the head of How Let Loose, and today we are here to celebrate 100 consecutive weeks of developer briefings with you, the community. Thank you for joining us, Max.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Jono. And yeah, pretty exciting that it's a hundred developer briefings, which is 100 weeks. Which when I say it is kind of crazy. 100 weeks is a lot of weeks. 100 weeks of chatting about the development of the game. And we probably, I dare say, we have. I can't even think about this, but more than 100 to go with regard to developer briefings. Probably quite a few more than 100. But no, it's an amazing milestone.
Yeah, I remember
So yeah.
back in the day when we were doing like early class guides for dev briefings and things like that. And, when we were even flirting with the idea of, looking at an early version of Mantling and things like that. So to see how it's developed and how the community, our players, have embraced them and really driven them and engaged with us there, like, yeah, it's awesome to think that 100 weeks has flown by.
Yeah.
And yeah, so today we are going to be answering a few kind of questions and also sourcing them from you, our dev brief readers and community. But make sure you stick around until the end as well. We've got something cool to show you. So let's get stuck in, Max. No time like the present. Now let's go back. Let's go back to the early days of Hell Let Loose. Way
Sure.
back
Oof.
before even Team 17 were involved. Before I had even kind of played Hell Let Loose. How
Yeah.
much has the game changed since the initial Kickstarter?
Oof. Well, yeah, it's a very good question. I mean, the game, it's kind of a funny one. I think the spirit of the game and what we laid out to do, I like to think, and I hope anyway, and I mean, as a developer, the only real guide you can kind of trust is sort of your own interpretation of the game and your own feeling in the game. And so, in so much as capturing the spirit of what we pitched, this sort of company of heroes esque red orchestra sort of feeling intensity of World War II combat, of a front line, of doing different things to break through the front line or to protect your front line. I think that we are closer to that than we've ever been before with the game. Um, I think that to get there was a tough learning process, particularly before we actually launched into early access. For those of you who go very far back, and even played in the closed alpha before we launched, that was a very different experience, and one that we felt, when we looked at our goals for the game, wasn't delivering what it needed to do in order to have the kind of intense, fraught frontline experience that we feel we've got in the game now. So look, it's hard. I mean, there's so many ways you can break that question down. I think that we're really quite close to achieving the full spectrum, or at least a fuller picture of the full suite of kind of things that should be available to you on the battlefield, i.e., different vehicles, different commander abilities, the utility per role. We've still obviously got a long way to go in fleshing out that content, but I think ultimately the foundations are now much more stable. The quality, I hope and I like to think, is significantly higher than back then. And I feel, I think, and maybe speaking broadly for the dev team, like we're kind of in a groove now. We're not we're not building the engine of the plane as we fly it anymore. The engine's built, and we'll do maintenance on the engine, but we're now flying,
Yeah.
and we're now picking the fabric on the seats, as opposed to, again, like trying to do everything that you should have done before you release a game while the game is already released, which has sort of been the story of, I think, the first 9 months of us being in early access. So yeah, it's changed in huge ways. If you ever, I mean, really, if you played it before one update ago, the games feel so vastly different. Let alone if you played it just after we released in early access, that is a completely different game, completely different experience. We didn't have any leaning, we didn't have any vaulting, mantling, we didn't have any ballistic system. I mean, it's really a question of what did we have. We had like six, seven, five less maps, six
Yeah,
less
I
maps,
mean,
I
there's
think.
so many cool maps now as well.
Yeah, yeah, and then, like a big part of us in early access is really we have a very set vision for what that 1.0 product looks like, both from an optimization perspective, which I'm sure will please a lot of people, but then also from a visual quality perspective and a gameplay perspective as well. We really feel like we've been learning, as I said, we've been learning what Hell Let Loose is as we've been making it, and then we've been trying to kind of, to use a really banal phrase, lean into the things that we think work, and then obviously nullify or change the things we think don't work, from every perspective. So yeah, just so much has changed, and I think, if you haven't been in the game um, since release, then it's well worth jumping back in this coming update.
Exactly, and the thing is as well, like you mentioned that the game's changed so much. Like you don't recognize the game like 6 months ago to what it is now. Stuff like I know when the animation update was coming in, we've all seen it. You especially were working on it, and we knew how much of a game changer this would be, and we were waiting to show the community all this cool stuff. And you were playing in test matches with this new system, and yeah, the game just transforms. And I know that in 6 months more time, the game is going to be built even more in a way that it will be unrecognizable in another great way
Yeah.
because of all the new content that's come in and all the new features and optimization and quality of life. Like it's this continually exciting for me as a player as well as a community manager on it. This continual pipeline of more cool new stuff that's coming, which kind of takes us on to the next question actually. What does the future of Hell Let Loose look like in early access?
I think, Hell Let Loose, while we are in early access, which implies that we just kind of keep updating the game until we feel like, it's done, and then we release the game, and that's it. I think what it actually really is for us is early access has been a period in which we've established basically a live service model. I know everyone hates that term, but it's a live service model where we just work indefinitely. Like, we love increasing the content in the game, bringing new maps in, bring new buildings, bring new guns, bring new equipment, trying to address legacy faults in the way that we've done stuff in the game. A really small example would be using a wrench to build a box full of supplies, and then to rearm that box of supplies, you just simply die and respawn.
Yeah.
These are pretty ugly gameplay loops. There was stuff really that we chucked in because we needed it there, and it wasn't the optimal way of doing it. So for us in early access, we do have a very set idea of what our early access 1.0 product looks like. To put it simply, it looks like what we would consider to be a base game. We would have, all roles would have a series. I mean, to start of the least important stuff, all roles would have a series of obviously different customization options. You would have real significant gameplay changes between the loadouts, which implies you have like quite a broader spectrum of content in order to make those loadouts interesting and compelling. We have, a full suite of Western Front maps that give you a very different experience no matter which one you play, but hopefully a similar quality of gameplay experience across each of them. And what I mean by that is no map that feels terrible to play in a way that we can help.
Yeah.
Um, and then also from an optimization perspective, that each map you hop into, you're not like, oh, this is the map where I lose 30 frames. That each map is consistent. And then, on other perspectives, that we've managed to touch on all the things that we know weren't good and upgrade them. And what we hope you've seen from update to update to update is sitting down as a team and kind of going discipline by discipline and saying, like, how can we get this to be the best we can possibly manage? We had that obviously with the procedural animations. We're doing a huge amount of that at the moment with the sound effects. We're continually working on the UI. We're continually working on optimization, and we're constantly overhauling all of the maps in the game, taking the very, very early ones and bringing them up to par with some of the later ones. So yeah, that's sort of what our early access journey looks like, is finalizing and rounding out and polishing the content that we would consider to be suitable as a full game for the Western Front. And I think that we're well on our way there. I think there's still quite a bit of work to do, particularly around UI, particularly around optimization, particularly around fleshing out and tightening up some different way that gameplay relates to one another.
Yeah.
I'm sure people have comments about armor, balancing, things like that. So that's really, I think, the meat of what we have to get done before we leave early access.
Excellent. As I say, we'll be touching on that in a short moment with community questions as well. So I'm glad you
Cool.
mentioned that. So we've spoken obviously about Hell Let Loose, but let's kind of speak about one of the brains behind Hell Let Loose. You, um, we know you're
One
one
of
of many
many
exactly.
brains,
There's
and probably the dumbest brain. So yeah, let's just give some context.
which takes us on to we know you're a gamer, but what kind of games do you play? What's your favorite genre of video game? FPS?
Oh, it's hard. I mean, I think, uh, look, we've become a game studio. We've become a business. I mean, my tastes have always been very, very broad when it comes to video games. I really love playing almost every game of every genre in order to understand like what's clicking with the game. And I'm really agnostic towards whatever genre I play. And that's always been the case, like while I'll play like MotoGP, and then or Gran Turismo, and then play Project Reality. This is like way back in the day. Or I'll play Gears of War, and then Modern Warfare 1 way back in the day, and then Project Reality, or Armor,
Yeah.
and then I used to be actually one of the first forum moderators for DayZ, of
Wow.
all things, back in like
A community manager.
2011,
Wow.
2012. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Way, way back in the day. So I think what's always been, well, the thing that makes me tick is I love finding really unique things in different games of different genres, and understanding why is it that I'm enjoying this and things like that. So I mean, now I do play to relax. I play FPS. I'm staying away from battle royales because those are not great for blood pressure. Obviously, I play Hell Let Loose. I play Hell Let Loose quite a bit. But it is also hard for me to relax when I play Hell Let Loose, because I see everything that's wrong with the game constantly. And every time I have an annoying moment, I like have to get my notepad out, which is right next to the computer. So,
Talk about
um,
immersion, though. You're like writing down battle
oh,
reports.
yeah, if only it was sexy like battle reports. Instead, it's like, um, oh, what would it be like? Create FPP death animation of hands dropping weapon when shot.
Yeah.
You know, and then moving on. It's not a fun time. But look, I'll play everything. I mean, I played some Baldur's Gate recently. Love what the guys at Larian do. I played some Fall Guys with my brother. Obviously, I'll play like everything in the genre,
Yeah.
in Hell Let Loose genre as well. Just to kind of keep tabs on sort of what's happening. Many people have great ideas for ways of pushing genres forward. I find a lot of inspiration in strategy games. Yeah, so sorry.
That's good.
The quick answer is I play kind of everything. Unfortunately, most of them I only get to play for a couple of days in order to kind of, mainly as research.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll just yeah, keep trying a wide variety of things.
No, yeah, well, say variety is the spice of life, right? And I know that when we first signed Team 17 Black Matter partnership, we were talking about Company Heroes. We'd both played Company Heroes. So when you were like, oh,
Mm.
our objectives and kind of like our resource system will be Company Heroes based, I immediately went, yeah, I played Company Heroes. That makes perfect sense to me, And I think playing a wide variety of games, even like I'm mostly an FPS gamer these days as well, but I like RPG strategy games and stuff. You really kind of you get a better appreciation of how other genres can have a worthy place within,
Definitely.
say, FPS, and seeing that kind of really come to fruition with How Let Loose, and seeing how the community are embracing it, and then coming up with their own strategies that we didn't think people would do, is super awesome. And then that kind of takes us on to the next question, and then we're only a
Mm.
couple more before we get onto the community stuff, community
Cool.
questions. We always speak about How Let Loose in early access and what we're aiming for, but as you mentioned, we've got hundreds of more dev briefs, touch wood, to come in the future, which means beyond early access launch, because we know early access and physically launching is just part of the journey. So what
Yeah.
does life, or what can you say life for How Let Loose is going to look like post early access?
Yeah, so I think that, I mean, we're trying to figure out right now what our update cadence will be when we leave early access. Something that we're pretty confident on, and we're happy to tell everyone is that we are going to look at a very, very, very significant content update, uh, a year and a half, every year and a half, alongside other content updates, and then probably working in more hot fixes. I would
Hmm.
say more smaller patches. The way that we kind of are going to try and delineate it out is we're going to try and delineate it out so we are able to tend to balance issues or smaller issues, lower risk issues that exist within the current game as it is, crash fixes, bug, stuff like that,
Mm.
on a smaller scale more rapidly. I think that's something that we haven't done super well on in the past because we've just been doing so much all at once that it's been difficult to kind of break out from the long term goals that we've had to for do get short term stuff out.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the first tier, and then the second tier would be adding more content for the existing game, semi regularly. Whether it's a vehicle or a gun or I don't know, customization stuff or
Yeah.
loadouts or balance changes or things like that. And then the third level would be, we're talking like, it's not just one map. It's not, it could be a force, like it could be a whole new army.
Yeah. We've seen a lot of
Um,
requests for cool armies and things like that.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So Max has been taking note.
Yes, yes, yes. So, like we've always said, that basically the caveat was like, if we can commercially support doing this, then we'll keep doing it. And that's it. We're, we're
Yeah.
we're super fortunate. The game has sold fantastically, continues to sell fantastically. We just keep adding more content. Players are enjoying it. I think that we need to, just for early access, we need to harden up some of the fundamentals still. UI, getting people into the game, tips, hints, showing people what stuff does and how it works. Done a terrible job at that so far because everything's sort of been constantly moving.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving forward, like Eastern Front, Africa, further east, who knows? Like
Yeah.
it's exciting. And there's you look at games like Rust, you look at games like Subnautica, you look at games like in genre Squad, just come out of early access. 5 years later, not saying that we would be in early access that long, but that they've consistently added
Yeah.
significant content to the game. I mean, and we're almost, we're just over a year down into Hell Let Loose's live development journey. So we've got a lot of time,
It's
and we've got
very
a lot of
exciting.
we've got a lot of stuff to come, and we're just fortunate that we have a player base who's excited for it. I mean, there's
Yeah.
nothing more you can ask as a developer.
Yeah,
So
and
yeah.
it's funny you mentioned that because the next bit before we go into community questions, I just want to talk about kind of the community. And as you said, like, the community of really, it's thanks to the community that Hell Let Loose is where it is, right? Like,
Yes.
you guys
Oh,
make the game, but they make the game what it is. Not
yes.
only in it
Yeah.
being successful as a game itself, but the culture of the game and whether players want to stick around. And I
Yes.
think back when we started the dev briefing 100 weeks ago, it was a way for us to just touch base with the community, say, hey, this is what we're doing, so that they knew their time was well invested with us because we were being open as possible. And whilst
Yeah.
it still serves that purpose over the 100 weeks, we really enjoy it, and seeing how much you all look forward to the dev briefs make us look forward to sharing all this cool stuff with you.
Yeah. It
And
does.
I know that when I'm chasing you, like you're spoiling me. You're like, I'm gonna go get some more content for them. I want to show them this. I want to show them that. And like when I've said, you've seen me post it on the forums probably as well. Like when I say the community are the heart of Hell Let Loose, that's true. That's not us just kind of going, oh, they'll like this. We 100% believe that. You
Yeah.
guys and girls, like, you've made Hell Let Loose what it is. And that's why we're so keen to work with you. Whether you're happy with something or you're being critical of something, your feedback is fair and constructive. You like to have a laugh with us as well. And yeah, Hell Let Loose wouldn't be what it is without your fantastic support. I don't know if you want to say anything as well, Max, but on the community front, like, it's a privilege to be working as a community manager alongside the Hell Let Loose players base, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, no, look, I totally agree. I mean, you just look at the product we launched with. You look at the game we launched with, and the community have been so patient and so generous in their time with us and their feedback and allowing us and giving us the time to get this game to where we knew it could be. Still got a little way to go, but I think hopefully people would agree that we're much further, from our launch version of the game. And it is a delight, like just the other day, a community member wrote a personal message, I think to you, Jonno, that you shared, and
Oh, about
this
his
community member.
his grandfather, I believe, or his
That's
father.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Talking about his, I believe was it grand? I think it was
I think
grandfather. I need to double check.
yeah, we've got the
Or
post in our
father? No, sorry, his
is it,
father. It was
yes.
his father. I'm relatively sure. Um, but talking about his experiences, during World War II, fighting for the British. I'm pretty sure. I mean, the other problem is we just read this stuff. So we read all of these accounts as well. But this particular guy talking about his father fighting for the British, being downed in enemy territory, and the kind of memorialization of that very small memoir that I'm sure many families around the world have. Just is really really energizing to us as developers to understand that what we're doing is not only it's not only providing something fun for people to do in their spare time as a hobby, to play the game, but it's also in some way a memorialization of history. So look, there's so many aspects to it. There's just how the community also have an amazing sense of humor. The meme
Don't
the
they
meme
just?
game on the meme game on the Hell Let Loose subreddit like actively makes me laugh. Like I'll check it normally once a day just to see what the temperature is and how people are feeling about different aspects of the game and the job that we're doing. And increasingly, I see people who are far more talented than me. Moscow, obviously, a brilliant cartoonist,
Oh yeah.
but just generally, the meme game is just yeah, often makes me laugh, which is I'm quite hard to make laugh. So yeah, it's a lot of fun, I have to say, and as developers, it's our duty then to make sure that we constantly engage, we constantly listen, we constantly work as hard as we can. And I should just quickly say, on a more serious note, for people who don't who don't know this, Jonno here does a fantastic job of not only chatting to people on Discord, but will also work with a couple of other people to put together. It's almost like fortnightly reports on all of the channels, so that we know, okay, this is the thing that's being spoken about the most at the moment. Let's have a look at it. Let's immediately see if we can tackle it. Let's see if we can get in the next update. How difficult is it going to be? At the same time, myself and almost every other team member is also looking at channels, and we kind of divide it up a bit because it's a lot of information to consume. And we basically we use you guys as our metric. Obviously, we have ideas for what we want to do. For instance, melee, and we have an idea of how we'd like to achieve that. But once something's in the game, it's fair. It's fair game for you guys. You let us know this sucks. This doesn't make sense. This is a dumb thing. I mean, hopefully the language is kinder, but we listen to all of it, and we work as hard as possible to correct whatever it is that needs correcting.
Yeah, and I think an early example of that was back in the day before we had Mantolin, and because we wanted to bring a more complete, smoother version of Mantolin in later, but the community were like, look, we'd really appreciate this. So we sat
Mm.
down, you guys, put it into your plan, and you brought forward an early version of Mantolin that wasn't as smooth as you'd like, which I know is painful, but it still served the purpose, and the community reception to that was really promising because they said, look, we get it, we're not going to get you guys for it not being the full one, but thank you for bringing it forward. And even if we're not commenting in every post, trust us, we're seeing it and we're writing it down
Yeah,
and we're talking about it. And yeah, so your words do have actions and results. And that's
yeah.
that's really cool for us.
We got spreadsheets filled with them. That's how we work. We've got Google Documents and
Yeah,
spreadsheets where it's nothing but player feedback
yeah. And
about different
the
stuff.
more of you that talk about it, the better. Like, you might think I'm one voice. What does my opinion matter? This person's already said this. If you see a thread that you agree or disagree with, have a friendly comment in there, because we do tally up, different people that have said different things as well, so that we can build a bigger image, and we're not just like, oh, one person has said this, therefore we have to address or ignore this. It's the more of you, all of your views are valid. Every single one of you as a player, your view is important to us. So just chuck it in, as long as you're chill with us, and you're not overly mean to me on the forums. Like, it's cool.
Don't be mean to Jonno. He's the friendliest. He's like literally the friendliest person I've ever met in my life. So, yeah, like we are always watching and always listening. The one thing I would say from a development perspective is, if you do find something wrong or you don't like something really useful to think about is how should it behave? What did you need? How did you need it to behave for it to be better for you, for the problem that you're having not to, for the problem you are having currently to not be a problem anymore? If you post feedback like that, that's super valuable to us as
Yeah.
developers. It's harder because it is harder. It's very quick. I as a player as well, I very quickly will know. Oh, I've had a negative reaction to something. But if you guys are able to take it one or two steps further and say, you know what, I think the problem I'm having here is that this is not I'm not being told when this is happening, or I could really do with a sound to let me know that this has occurred, or stuff like that. That's really useful for us as developers to kind of look at that feedback and go, oh, that's an interesting point. Like that's something that then lets us get to the solution quicker. Or we might say, okay, we could do that, but there's a technical reason why we may not have done that previously. Well, maybe we need to think about this a different way. But that's just if many of you do offer so much constructive feedback, but that's something I think if you take it further and you start to try and rationalize it out, that's very helpful to us as well.
Yeah, put your ideas down. Like, if you're like, yeah, I don't like, for example, pull it out of the air, suppression. This is why I don't like suppression. And we
Mm,
can go, okay, now we know why. And then we can see if we agree with it, or if that goes into what we're planning anyway, just as a pure
yeah,
example. And same with like weapon balance, like, or the Car 98 bolt speed. And we're like, well, this is what we feel, this is what other people have said. So yeah, if you're like, I don't like this, or I like this, you can go, I really like this, and this is why I like this. That's the
yeah,
same kind of effect.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and talking about new things, actually, before we go into community questions, let's spend a couple
Sure.
of minutes looking at the new and improved Hurtgen Forest. Hurtgen Forest has a special place in my heart. It's the first Hell Let Loose map I ever played, and I instantly fell in love with it. I was like, we need to work with these guys back when we had the test in the Team 17 office. So Spono has currently gone onto a preview branch, so please note this is not final footage, but we're very excited to show you this. So Max, let's chat for the next couple of minutes about New Hurtgen Forest. Where are we
Sure.
at?
Well, we've learned a lot of things artistically about working with Unreal Engine and photorealism and things like that, and trying to basically and lighting and map layout and all the rest of it, and optimization as well. And Hurtgen, if you've ever looked at footage, there's a lot of stuff that's broken in it visually, very broken, that we really wanted to fix up so that it felt more visually in line with other maps, particularly Hill 400. We wanted to make sure that the experience that you're playing across the maps is uniform from optimization, from a visual perspective, and then just from like a cover and gameplay perspective as well, and from a visual interest perspective. So Hurtgen, alongside Saint-Marie de Mont, is one of our earliest maps, and we basically wanted to revisit it and revamp it and overhaul it to give you a much more interesting playthrough, fight through experience. Obviously, not at the cost of extra frames.
Of course.
So, yeah, exactly. So, Hurtgen now has many more intentional clearings to provide better field of fire, to provide kind of an opportunity for people to lock down fields of fire, and also for vehicles to lock them down as well. The center of the map plays much more on the scale of the map. Previously, there's been quite heavy fog over the whole thing, which has basically meant that you never get the sense that you're really in a mountainous big forest.
Yeah.
You feel more like you can kind of see 60 meters, and then it's like just trying to pick the guy between the tree trunks. The center of the map now has been overhauled. You don't have meshes sticking out of the ground. You don't have just like endless like one mud texture down the side of the mountain. We've really tried to build it in so you have lots of varying terrain, lots of varying visual difference between different areas of where you're fighting. Um, and we've really tried to bring it to AAA visual quality, also maintaining the optimization and the frame rate. We were aware that many players find it to be one of the most performant maps we have. And yeah, we've really just worked as hard as possible to make it a very fun, varied map to play on and battle through. And you'll notice significant differences in many different locations. You also notice more cover and more places to put OPs and garrisons. And also if you're a tanker, more places to
Tankers
sit
rejoice.
in your tank. Yeah, and like there's more interest in the armored gameplay as well. And then finally, there's much larger scale in the middle of the map. You know, you get a bigger sense of the distances and things like that. And then finally, we've got also at the moment we've got two offensive modes set up, so German and US,
Nice.
both with different weather variations. So it should be Hurtgen like you've never played before. We feel that it's artistically and gameplay wise a much bigger step forward. So yeah, so we hope people enjoy it and hope you enjoy the footage of seeing it.
Awesome. Right. Now, let's move on to the community questions. To say, don't worry though, you don't have too long to wait for Hurtgen. It is dropping in update 8, the overhaul, as well as
That's right.
the new game modes for that map. So we look forward to hearing what you think about it. I'm super excited. I mean, I love the
Mm.
stream down the middle personally. Like, I love that feature, but I can't wait to dive back in into say that special map for me. Um,
Awesome.
so, community question wise,
Cool. Let's do it.
I'm gonna steal the first question. I hope you don't mind, Max.
Go
I
for
wanna
it. Go
sneak
for
one
it.
in,
Take
because
it. Take it.
this is really interesting on the community front. Because I guess when you look at it, you can kind of split the Hell Let Loose community into kind of two kind of subgroups, even though obviously
Yep.
everyone mingles. You've got like public players, people that jump in, play the game, play with their mates, play on their own, have a great time, engage with the community, engage with us. So like your public group, and then you've got like the competitive community. You know, your clans, your groups of players that take it very seriously.
Yep.
You know, your basically your community guides as well who teach new players. And obviously they play the game in two very kind of different ways. One can be hyper organized, and one is basically kind of pickup group style, coming together and forming these tactics on the fly. Now, how do you feel both kind of types of player group have helped shape the game?
Yeah, so I mean, we wrote about this a couple of weeks ago, and some people I think were concerned that we were going to just look at one, let's say the competitive community only as to where we would take the game, or likewise, I think before then the competitive community were concerned that we were just looking at, you know, the pickup game or whatever,
Mm,
as the way we would take the game. Really the way that we think about it is the pickup game is look it's the experience that 99% of players are going to have. That stat may
yeah.
change, if the competitive community continues to grow and the game continues to grow, which we think is kind of likely at this point. But for us, the way that we look at the competitive side of things is they're people who have spent often thousands of hours playing the game and they're deeply aware of the flaws of the game. And for us as developers, it's very useful to see those flaws laid bare in often very brutal fashion. Like no holds barred on the opinions
Yeah.
about what we might be not doing well. And so what we are going to basically actively be doing, and we will always plan to do this, but to be honest, we plan to do it after early access release. We weren't we look we didn't plan for there to be a competitive community before early access release. So the fact that we already have one is actually really great because it means we can get the game in shape, at least from a competitive perspective, sooner rather than later. We're going to be working closely with the competitive community to figure out what the top kind of 5 to 10 gripes are about the competitive side, I should
Hmm.
say. I think the big one, obviously, is the balancing between the teams. Anyone who looked at the match numbers and the fact that like Clan A would fight on American and German, and nearly every time Clan A fought on German, they lost. And Clan B fought on American and German, and every time they fought on German, they lost. Like that's an indicator, obviously, that something's wrong there with regard to balance. For us as developers, obviously we've got a sense, and the community obviously also have a sense of reasons why that might be the case. Is it firepower? Is it armor balancing? Like what's going on there? So the competitive side are really great canaries in the coal mine. Uh, not in a derogatory way,
Yeah,
obviously, but in a really analytical way, to help us understand the places we're really going wrong,
yeah,
with regard to balance. Which in the end, though, the changes that we make to fix that should then flow through to a much more uniform and even experience in the pickup games,
yeah,
in the general pub, in the general way most people play the game. We're never going to do anything to solve a competitive issue that will break or drastically alter or remove the fun from the the public games. But like I said, the competitive guys have really great. We've managed to have a chat to them and explain sort of the way that we want to tackle these issues. And look, they've got fantastic ideas, often far better ideas than we have. In so much as they've really thought about what is it that's causing this imbalance here. Because often for us as developers, we're looking at the really big picture. We're thinking about, okay, well, we've got to plan melee to come in here. We've got to plan. We're going to do this differently. We're going to change this. We're going to fix this stuff. So yeah, that's sort of how it works. Is the competitive community great to field the finer tuning mechanics of the
yeah.
game or things that we might otherwise miss, all in service of creating a better experience for everyone.
Yeah, and I think that's something like, in my opinion, you guys have done well because you see, like, when you're trying to cater to two audiences, it can be easy to focus on one or the other at the detriment to the other. But with Hell Let Loose, I think you're right. It's quite a symbiotic relationship between the two kind of different groups of players, and seeing how that's coming together is fantastic, and how both groups of players respect each other as well. And I know that like the public players know as well, like if they go into a clan server, they know that they're going to have a really great time and that the clans are welcoming and kind of give them this
Yep.
organized experience. So it's very there's no that elitism isn't there, right? And
No.
that's really awesome. And once again, that's down to you our players,
Oh,
like
yes. Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
I
And
will
now,
say though,
oh
I don't
sorry,
think we've done a fantastic job yet. I
there's
think we
more to come
have.
on that
We
front. Yeah,
Yeah, the competitive side. We're engaging with it now. It's not in the game yet, but we are going to be continually looking at ways we can improve the competitive side alongside just bringing new content and optimizing and things like that.
yeah.
Sorry, John, I
It's
just
very
jumped
much on
in.
mine. No, that's cool. Okay, so the first couple of questions are quite quick, which is good.
Sure.
I don't have the names for the first two, so sorry if you asked this question. I didn't grab your names at the time. When can we expect the next update? When is U8? Roughly.
U8
Ooh.
is U8 is I'm just wondering who's gonna murder
All
me
right, the
if I
brand team
say
aren't in this call, so you can say whatever
that's
you want.
right. Yeah, well, it's more the producing team, I think. Update 8 will be November, December. um, it's just we're basically currently running some quite large scale tests in a closed environment. We don't want to have a repeat of Quarantine where we drop the ball and we release something that's really unoptimized, and everyone's like, why did you release this? You should have just waited. We're actually running, a private public test environment, and we're working very very hard right now. Right now we've locked, we've branched, we are churning through bugs and trying to clear as much stuff out as humanly possible. But you'll have, this update's another massively ridiculously huge update. The patch notes are going to be too big to put on
Oh
Steam like
no,
last
not
time.
again.
It's going to be like another 17, 18, 19 pages of stuff.
Prepare
So yeah,
yourselves.
yeah, weeks within
Yeah.
within weeks, I
Yeah,
guess.
we say like the scope of update 8 has grown a lot from what it was originally said. We had this cool content drop for U8, and then Max and the team were just really, really getting stuck in and working closely with production, and more content has arrived through that, and that kind of takes on like the next question. I think we've already answered, but I'm gonna say it anyway, which is how much
Yep.
does the community influence the decisions that you make as a game dev? But I think already we've said, like huge. Even when you don't think we're
Yes. Yeah.
watching, like Discord, Reddit, Facebook, Twitter,
Yeah.
Steam,
Instagram.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Max. I suppose Max puts out those Instagram posts, so he gets to put cool stuff out that I don't see straight away as
Apologies though,
well.
if apologies for not replying. Normally, we've tried to keep Instagram as a developer platform where we're just kind of trying to show you fun stuff and meaningful stuff. We don't want to hit you with like flyers, like letterbox dropping you on your Instagram. We want to keep it like exciting as
Yeah.
much as humanly possible. Give some codes away, but show off new stuff.
Mm.
So apologies for the lack of meaningful replies on Instagram.
If you want to chat though, I'm on Twitter and Steam and Facebook.
Yeah,
So
Jonno,
I'm around
Jonno's
if you
there.
do wanna chat. I know I'm
Yeah.
not as cool as Max, Bono, and the Black Mat team, but I'm around. I
No,
can
no,
ask them
no.
questions for you. So that takes us on to PKKA create. No, sorry, Rubber Ducky actually. Rubber Ducky. When will the balance of tanks be corrected? Obviously, we have some really dedicated tank players, and we have mentioned we're looking at tanks. So,
Yeah, so
what's the deal?
we still have a bit of an armored update, which I think will probably be the bulk of it will be the next one. We've done it's so hard to say because we've done a lot of different stuff for this coming update as well. We've fixed a lot of collision issues for tanks in maps. We've fixed a lot of flipping issues with tanks in maps. We've tweaked some shell damage types. We've tweaked some fuel costs for tanks. But we also want to kind of revisit them and properly have a look at them again. Make sure they're smooth. We need to update the vision ports. There's lots of stuff still to come on it and to do on it. With regard to balance of tanks, and so much as cost to field them, that has been redressed for this coming update. We've also started to build out the vanilla roster that is available to each team in their main base that will just be the ambiently respawning vehicles. And that will start to form the foundation for kind of the meta you'll see as the vanilla meta in each map.
Hmm.
Obviously augmented by the commander base spawning stuff in. So it's an ongoing work in progress. We've heard huge amounts of feedback. We are aware that some tanks just get hit in a weird spot and they'll blow up with one shot. We're also aware that some tanks just are like absolute suckers for punishment and can be hit by about 1,000 shells and are impervious. We're also aware that some of the handheld AT is very numerous and probably a bit too numerous than it should be now in the game. There's lots of different stuff that's going to be fixed and going to be happening because basically we feel with the animation update we really overhauled the infantry side of things, and now the tank kind of side of things really needs some more TLC from a balance perspective as well.
Coming soon,
So
or coming
yeah,
in the
coming soon.
nearish future, not too
All the
distant
sounds,
future.
yeah, all the sounds for the heavy weapons, the effects, the shell effects, lots and lots of different stuff. The traces. We've now got the projectiles are on the coax traces, so instead of that horrendous sort of Death Star bloomy fiery crap, it's now proper projectiles that you can guide onto
Nice.
target.
That's cool.
So yeah,
That's really cool.
yeah.
And kind of following on from that, a soldier from the 503rd asks,
Hmm.
King Tiger, when?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's going to happen. It has to happen. It's the King Tiger. When is a different question. In so much as it's not hard for us to bring it into the game at all. I think probably next year. I think probably next year. There's a lot happening next year. There is a ridiculous amount happening next year. A lot of
There
vehicles are
really
going to be
is.
added to the game next year. A lot of a couple of new vehicle types even. So the King Tiger is on the list. Most of the questions with Hell Let Loose with regards to vehicles and weapons is not like, will you add this? It's really like when will
When's
you
it
add it?
coming? Yeah.
Yeah, when's it coming?
And that's the really cool thing as well. And that takes us on to, there you go, PKKA Surega, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, 163. Hello, dear developers. Are there any plans in the future for the introduction of bayonets for infantry and mortars for artillery? So I guess that one is melee combat and, kind of more explosive options.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're just thinking about it at the moment. Melee is going to be happening sooner rather than later. We're just trying to work out if you're putting a bayonet on a gun or you are. Look, this is our design perspective, okay? In a World War II game with a very high time to kill, the question is, how do we do melee in a way, particularly with Hell Let Loose, where it's often not a chance for you to sneak around people
Yeah.
and be behind them. how do we make it so melee actually is useful and effective, but also we're in a situation where you're not just instantly gunned down.
Yeah.
You go for the melee kill and you're not instantly gunned down. So we've got an idea of how we're going to do that. We're going to be testing some stuff for the next update around implementation for that. The things that we need to achieve from a design perspective is it really almost needs to be an instant, very brutal, very satisfying kill, because more than 1 second to do it means you're dead because they've reloaded and they've killed you. Or the 10 to 49 other people around
all his mates have turned around,
has killed you, or something else has happened. And then, or why not just use a grenade yourself, or why not just shoot them yourself? And so it needs to be very quick and punchy, and it needs to reward the fact that you've got in close and you're behind them. So we're just going to toy with the systems. I don't think it's going to be anything super cumbersome, because it just won't get used, I don't think. And it won't be effective. And it'll be a nice idea that we can tell everyone, look, you can do this and this and this, and pull a baton out and X and Y. But realistically, we want people to use this feature.
It needs to be like quick and dirty,
super dirty.
You see like examples like 2 players will walk, one will come out of bunker while others are then they've got their rifles that aren't loaded and they're like and I guess in that case you'd literally just kind of just lunge at you'd just be like and try and batter them or something.
Go for it.
That's the kind of thing. And especially like how that loses a team game. If you're meleeing someone, you don't want to lock yourself into this like 2-3 second animation where they've gone, oh, by the way, guys, I'm getting stabbed, and they've just gone, oh, really? And turned around. You want to go back.
The 9 other guys within 40 meters are all just bead onto you and just nail you. So, that's our design consideration there. And then the second question was around mortars. I mean, you could say the same for rifle grenades as well. We're keen to do them. They won't be in the near future. They'll probably be a midterm future, midterm kind of situation. Will most likely be hand deployed by a particular role, and fired by that role or fired by other people who come to it. And they will be more of a on the spot artillery type thing, where you're not leveraging full artillery. We may, with these things, disconnect them from the munitions and put them against supplies. So that there's a key differentiation between the way that they work versus artillery.
And it keeps the commander with that element of control as well over the resources.
That's right. Yeah, it doesn't add yet another drain that sucks his currency away.
Nice. And that takes us on to a question from Rival. It's kind of a double one. They snuck them in. As the game continues to grow in scope and player population, how do you plan to maintain the delicate balance between accessibility and complexity? And then they've kind of tied into that, like, for example, like, are we going to have a magazine check ability so that, you can go, oh, how many shots have I got left?
Yeah, I mean, we need to do something like that. I mean, I know Squad does like a colored mag system where you can kind of get a sense of like, have I used some rounds, or is it completely full, or was it almost empty? Or obviously Red Orchestra, I think it's double tap R and it checks it. I think double tapping R is quite a nice system for us, where you could probably manipulate the gun and either listen or just get a little notification. But no, you're 100% correct. This is increasingly a challenge for us that we're just not meeting at the moment. Is that we've got blow torches now. You've got hammers. You've got wrenches. You have 3 different types of ammo box. You can now hold and carry your supply crate around. There's a lot of content in this game.
That's a cool thing though, the carrying supply crates around.
Yeah, it's really fun. It feels good. It feels much better than building it with a wrench, let me tell you. You can now upgrade your fortification. You can build a wall, and you can build a bunker, and then you can upgrade the bunker through 3 different levels of effectiveness, each time giving you more cover,
the RTS
less penetration.
I love that. Oh, like build. You could be the commander could be like, right, I want some defenses here, and you can be like, an officer could call back and be like, look, we've seen like, for example, like American troops coming in this way, and the commander could be like, right, supplies here, maybe drop some supplies in or whatever, and then you can upgrade that and fortify that. Yeah, the new trucks. You can get your support guy or whoever you've got driving the trucks can be like, you can ring them up like, yo, I need a delivery. They can drop in the supplies. There's that whole new meta game for people that love supporting the front line and supporting the
Mm.
battle. Whether that's the transport truck for troops or the supply truck. Like, we're given players that like to play certain ways or want to try something different, ways to fully contribute to the battle and play their way. If you got someone who loves Truck Simulator jumping into Hell Let Loose, you know,
Yeah,
you've
you're going
got
to have
yourself.
something for you now.
And like drivers are going to be like, you're going to want to make friends with drivers for update 8. Put it that way. If you've got a
Yeah,
friend or you spot a player who loves driving the tanks or the recon vehicles, tap them up, butter them up a bit, get them in your trucks,
yeah,
because that's going to be huge.
yeah. So no, I mean exactly right. Like that, and so we just have to basically we're going to have to take a step back. I think in a couple of months' time and look at it and say how on earth do we explain all this to people? I think what we're going to have to do is put in a couple more HUD prompts. Not insane, not on your HUD, but like in 3D space.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
come here to get this, press this to get this. You can't enter this vehicle unless you have this. Um, in order to we're already doing right now, in order to upgrade this bunker to this bunker, you're going to need this many supplies and you need to have this piece of equipment, the hammer, in order to do it. But how do we tell people that if you and two of your mates also have hammers, all three of you building something
Uh,
simultaneously is faster than
yeah,
one? It's all this type of stuff. So this is a big balance. I think a lot of it's going to be about clever usage of sound and clever usage
yeah.
of prompts and UI and stuff
Because
like
I think
that.
that's
But
really cool as well. Because I like playing anti-tank, right? And obviously, when you're trying
mm,
to build your AT gun, like it's a slow process, and it's very like squeaky bum time. You're like, oh god, don't get shot. So I think the fact you could have these kind of like casual like AT kind of different AT members from different squads coming together, different units kind of going, oh, I'll help you out with that. When they're fortifying an area, the engineers and the AT guys can be working together in little groups and stuff like that. The support and the commanders can work together. So it's kind of like, as a passive effect, it's going to be increasing cross-unit cohesion and team play. On the fly, you're using your proximity chat, going, "Hey, can you help me out here, or can I help you out?" So you're kind of really, really, let's say, as kind of like a positive passive effect. You're kind of increasing team cohesion in a simple way because
yeah.
you can just go and help out. You don't have to like be in the same unit now to necessarily engage proactively with another unit outside of maybe being a medic or something like that. So yeah, that's really cool. I think that's a really cool thing you
Mm.
guys have been doing. Um,
Oh, thanks. Yeah, no, it'd be good.
and that takes us on to ARC Scalp. And this
Mm.
actually ties in really well. Once again, we've been speaking logistics. Can we find out a bit more about the logistics system to come? Will it be
Sure.
necessary to transport material to the front, for example? And how can this be expanded?
Yeah, so basically, the way that we're looking at it is the handheld supplies from the support class are a way of getting garrisons down, which is obviously critical to the team is getting garrisons down. We didn't want to just push it all onto trucks
Yeah,
because it will then mean that if one person ruins your experience by getting their truck blown up, you literally can't participate in the game, and the
yeah,
whole team folds. So support will always have pretty much enough supplies to drop for a garrison. We may end up giving the support a variant loadout that sacrifices, let's say, grenades for a larger supply box.
mm,
But what the way that we're looking at trucks is trucks are a fantastic way of delivering a huge amount of resources to one area, specifically at this rate to let the engineer construct some significant fortifications, some key fortifications. The fortifications in the game can be upgradable. It's not going to be for this update, but in future updates, we'll be adding the ability to upgrade nodes so that they generate more resources. With In this coming update, we're going to have barricades, basically wall pieces and bunkers that each have 3 levels of upgrade, and each time suck up more and more supplies.
yeah,
So the real gameplay loop there is the driver dropping supplies, multiple runs of supplies. You can deploy crates off the back of the truck in order to let your team fortify a particular area. Obviously, I think less. I think people will end up fortifying near the central cap. Um, Overcommitting obviously is going to get you into hot water. And the benefit of the fortifications is essentially the lowest level of fortification can actually be penetrated. We've got bullet penetration in the game now. Can be penetrated by some high caliber rounds. I think the first 2 levels can also be destroyed by heavy weapons fire.
yeah.
the third level, which is concrete for the Germans. So there's a little bit of asymmetry here, but the third level that's concrete for the Germans basically turns your bunker into a pillbox, a concrete pillbox, much like Company of Heroes. It's impervious to tank and heavy weapons fire, and it provides a fantastic pillbox to shoot from.
Yeah.
So you might be looking at fortifying a particularly difficult spot in Purple Heart Lane or Foy, and running those supplies up or getting those supplies there to get that up could be a significant reason that you're able to hold the point. So yes, logistics is designed so that you basically have to go back to base, rearm, drive it up, drop it off, go back, bring it back, drop it off, go back, bring it back, drop it off. Having your truck destroyed won't wipe your team from the field, but it'll mean that you won't be able to get those fortifications up that might otherwise, maintain you the point or lose you the point.
Yeah. Well, that's good to say. Like, so if the other team successfully disrupts a supply line, it will hurt the team, but it will not stop them playing the game. Still, they can still build, they can still get the garrisons down, the supply, and get their infrastructure and defenses down, but not as much as if they would have that supply line. So the
Yes.
meta game is going to be branching out a bit. Do you commit a recon team or one of your infantry units to go and try and hunt and shut down supply lines, or do you bolster your frontline attack and just try and win through pushing that way? And these new tactical options that are going to be emergent and down to each team in every match, is really exciting. 'Cause you never know. You never know what's going to happen. And I think that's really cool. And that kind of takes us on
Yeah.
to a question from Spaghetti Bean, who asks, with the metagame finally settling in for now, wait until update 8, what approach are you taking to balance fast-paced infantry combat with meticulous and strategical management of resources? Will there be a way to cater to both players who are interested in the logistics side of combat and players that are interested in infantry combat tactics? And funnily enough, I think we kind of answered that just now with you guys bringing in the trucks and stuff, and all new like manually moving supply around, people building one object together and things like that. Whereas then infantry people can keep shooting, they can use these new tools, they can use the new bunkers and focus on that. Would you say I'm right in saying that, Max, or have I missed anything?
Sorry, John. I did just the joys of the internet. Just the first part of that question got cut off. Would you just mind
Yeah,
repeating the
sure.
question quickly?
With the metagame finally settled in, what approach are you taking to balance in fast-paced infantry combat with meticulous and strategical management of resources?
Right. Yeah. So the commander role is basically the RTS side of things. It's going to be the highest level of strategic thinking within the game. We're bringing more abilities in for the commander to better manage and translate resources. And we're also going to be looking at the way that resources are gained so that it's less of a all your resources are drained and then you just get bits here and there.
Yeah,
We want to make it a much more active economy where you can, potentially trade one resource for another at a worse rate, and do all different sorts of things like that. So
yeah,
the commander really has a ton to do with regard to the economy management. Um, and like everything, people know how powerful different commander abilities are. We have a cooldown there that balances it. It means that one commander is not able to just spam stuff
more bombing
faster
runs?
than the
Question
other.
mark.
Yeah, than the other commander. So that's really how we're looking at it. Is that if you want a more strategic and tactical experience, then you really want to step into the leadership roles on the battlefield, with the
Yeah,
commander being probably the most intense, and then the officers. Probably, I'd almost say the spotters less intense than
yeah,
an infantry officer, and an armored crew officer also is quite intense as well. So the design with Hell Let Loose has always been telescoped out, where the leadership roles have more responsibility, more tactical and strategic impact on the game. But if you're someone who just enjoys hopping in for 30 minutes, an hour, if you can stay for a full game, maybe an hour and a half, hopefully it doesn't drag on that long. But then you can grab an assault kit, you can grab an MG kit, you can grab a rifleman kit. You can grab many of the infantry kits in the
yeah,
game, and just go in the direction of the enemy. We always need bodies on the point,
yeah.
basically. So that's kind of how we look at this.
Yeah, and the thing, I think the different roles, as you said really well, leadership, if you really want to play, if you want really serious, you really want to kind of control the battlefield, that is what you can go on. And if you want to jump on, just, let off some steam, have some fun, there's there's roles for that as well. And even having said that though, not to discredit, like I love playing stuff like medic, I like playing rifleman, I like playing supporting roles that I can still be combat focused in. And people within those roles can be incredibly specialist. Like a rifleman putting down ammo at a key point to keep the anti-tank people going, the medics picking up anyone. And that's what I love about the game. You get out of it what you put in and what you want to get out of it. We don't pigeonhole, you have to do this. And I think that's really, really testament to the design. So kudos.
We'll also be adding, I think just the other quick thing is other loadouts that will come in the future will add greater complexity to otherwise simpler roles.
The
But
flammable
obviously
weapon.
there's always a choice, right? Yeah, or like let's say a mortar, or let's
Yeah.
say even now you have different ammunition boxes that you can drop and
Mm.
use in different ways. So yeah,
Looking forward to it.
so
More power to the player, really, and more
yes,
strategic options. And that takes us on to one from 7th Cav, which is Sergeant Erickson, who asks Admin Cam. What other tools for custom event organizers, such as locked classes or custom map layers, can we look for in the future?
Yeah, we're going to be hitting this pretty hard, probably after we launch out of early access. We need to do lots of stuff. We need to do admin cams. We need to let you see outlines of people. I mean, this goes hand in hand also with the community, with the competitive stuff, and then just good admin tools for administrators. We've got a lot of Archon stuff coming in this next update as well. This is all on the list. We just need a little bit of time now that we've got a lot of this other stuff sorted to tackle it. But yeah, I mean, we'd almost also really like to do a replay feature, so you can save the games that you've played and then go back and watch them through. I mean, that's well within our technical capabilities. So
Sorry about that, Max. My cat's just
no,
jumping on the
that's
keyboard.
right.
That's really cool. And I said, like as you said, like the competitive community formed and really strengthened and became a core foundation of the game way earlier than we expected. So now it's, you're like, cool, I really want to support them, I really want to do this, but we need to just plug in these bits first. And also it's making sure we do it justice as well, like rather than just throwing something out.
Yeah, not badly.
Which is cool. And then we've got just a couple of quick questions, really, because I know as well we've been going on for an hour. Wow.
Yeah,
check that
it's
out.
terrible.
We just love a good chatter. So the next, luckily, we've got a few quick fire questions. So grenade cooking, is that coming?
Yes. Yeah. It's a bug that it's not working at the moment. We'll get that in.
Nice. So obviously in DevBrief 99 we showed off a early version from a preview build, new explosions, VFX and SFX. Obviously a lot of the feedback we received was the smoke and dirt from explosions fades away too fast. Do we have any clarification on that?
Yes, that's already been improved. The amazing Danny saw the feedback, and like literally when I woke up the next morning, stuff had already been improved.
Danny's incredible. He's absolutely
yeah. So we might we'll see what the feedback is from this. Obviously, there is somewhat of a balance. If these things last forever, the optimization will plummet. But yeah, like everything, we saw the feedback, and now it's a much smoother fade out. It lasts longer. So yeah, we'll do whatever the feedback tells us to, and we've already improved it. And yeah, we hope people find just generally that this is a vastly improved visual quality and sound quality. I think from one of the closed playtests that we did, the sound quality of all the explosions now, and with the effects and with the shells flying over, we're almost where we should be with this.
It's going to be insane, especially when you've got two good artillery teams on both sides and your commanders calling in their bombing runs and all of the grenades going off on the satchel charges and the tanks. Like excuse the pun, but hell is going to get let loose. Like, I hope you've got like a nice headset when you're playing, because it's insane. It's going to be another level on the immersion front. We won't need another level of like that suppression effect of all these explosions coming around you, and it's like, I don't want to put my head up, which is super awesome. Okay, and I think we've answered this one already, but I will raise the question because they kindly took the time to ask us. Corporal Panzer from the 509th said,
Yep.
how often do you browse suggestions from the community on Reddit, Discord, and how do they significantly contribute to our ideas as we move forward? And they also said, thank you all for your hard work. And
Oh,
yeah, yeah, I'll hand it over to you.
Oh no, appreciate the kind words. It's our pleasure. And yeah, the answer is all the time. We see, we're a bit Eye of Sauron, really. We see everything that gets said. Sometimes we might miss like, really, really nested conversations or very, very like finer details on different stuff. But we see, we read all of it. Like I read the Reddit couple of times a day. Most of the team are on all of our different channels. I'm in Discord less now because it's just too distracting. I can just
You can lose hours
engage
to it, can't you?
forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I have to kind of pull back a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it really is. I would say that we've got key things we want to bring in, and we've got ideas for ways that we want to bring them in.
hmm
And I would say we're, at a point where that's kind of 30, 45, maybe 50% of the stuff that we do. And I'd almost say that the other 50% is stuff that we're fixing against community feedback, like according to community feedback.
Nice.
So yeah, all the time.
Yep, yeah. As we've said a few times, like your voice matters. Every single one of you. If you have a thought, jump in a thread, post it on Reddit, post it to us on Twitter, on Steam. Every player, you have a voice, and we listen to it. And where we can, we act
Yeah,
on it. And even if we don't act on it directly, we've spoken about it. Like we've got multiple team chats between Team 17 and Black Matter internally. We chat every day. We're always talking about what you're talking about and what we're working on.
yeah,
So yeah, it matters. So thank you. Um, and ooh, we're on the penultimate question.
oh, yeah.
From Celander. So campaign/operations mode. Will this be a thing? Are you able to tell us more?
Yes, 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 it will. It's like something that we're incredibly excited about. We're just going through a lot of the design for it at the moment. It's something that we've had a kind of a working document around for a very long time, for almost 2 years now. You should be able to fight from the beaches all the way through to Berlin, ideally. Um, by the time Hell Let Loose 1 is done, there should be multiple campaigns for you to fight through. Um, the offensive mode and warfare modes are game modes that are built to fit into campaign mode. We want to be able to bring resources and the things that you've got from match to match. Let's say you've had a particularly good match. We want to be able to take that from match to match. So you start off, you do a really, you might have a really bad battle, and that'll reflect in the decisions you get to make about the next battle. We're even looking at maybe, in the time between, trying to give each player on a team something that they could do in the campaign mode, so it's not just a glorified maps vote system.
Yeah.
We will look at stacking and comboing progression rewards for the amount of battles you win sequentially and then winning a campaign in total. There's going to be lots of cool stuff, like a lot of cool stuff coming around it. We want to do stuff like, the commander can pick specific abilities for the next battle. Yeah, so tons of stuff. Yes, it's going to be a lot of work to do it properly, but it's something that we're incredibly excited to do.
Watch this space,
Yeah,
basically. And
yeah,
before I ask the last question, Max, is there anything
sure.
you would like to say to the community on this, the 100th dev brief?
Just thank you for making our lives, easy. In so much as being polite to us, being kind to us, being generous to us with your time. When you encounter us, being super super polite. We play the game a lot. Not super polite, super friendly. Yeah, we play the game a lot, and it's always great to chat to everyone and see what people are thinking. It's great to get your feedback. It's just awesome that you guys are as excited as you are about it. It's more than anything else, that's what matters most to us, and it's what energizes us to continue working, continue to create content, and just try and make Hell Let Loose the best it can be. So thank you very much.
Yeah, and to echo what Max said, thank you everyone. As I said, you are the heart of Hell Let Loose, and we're so excited for you to be with us on this journey as the community continues to grow as well. And
Yeah,
we're just proud to have you with us. Thank you all so much.
yeah.
And that takes us on to that little cool thing I mentioned at the start, over an hour
Oh
ago
yeah,
now. So if you've got this far, thank you very much.
sure.
You're awesome.
Yeah.
So a question from Capinho.
Mm.
Max, can we
Yeah,
get
yeah.
some Eastern Front teasers soon, please?
Sure. That's fine. We can do that. Just I don't know, Jono, how you're going to do it if we'll just post it separately, but I just want to let people know that when you guys think that like dev briefs are like running thin or a little bit, or we're talking about something you're not super interested in, when we say that we can't show you everything we're working on, we really mean we can't show you everything we work on. We could have done like almost like a dev brief every day of the week for like the last while.
I mean, I probably want to.
Um,
The amount of time I'm like, hey Max, let's talk dev briefs.
Yeah, yeah. There is a there is a lot of work that has been done and that is done, and yeah, and it's exciting. So 2021, 2021. That's the giant hashtag asterisk terms of service agreement 2021 for this teaser. Um, yeah, it's going to be super exciting. We've learned a lot of lessons. The optimization is going to be good. Um, this will become a meme if it isn't. So yes.
Awesome. Well, let's wrap things up. Enjoy your very first official look at the Eastern Front. And from both myself and Max, we'll see you on the front line.
Cool. See you on the front line, guys. Thank you.